Today we're going to learn about multiplying and dividing rational expressions. We'd like you to come underneath those two words and write algebra fractions, because you really need to be thinking about the operations of multiplying and dividing of fractions. So we're going to start with multiplying. Let's do just regular fractions, and then we'll get to the algebra fractions. So when you multiply fractions, you just multiply straight across the top, straight across the bottom, and 3 times 4 is 12, and 5 times 7 is 35. Now sometimes when you multiply fractions, you can cancel, and you normally cancel on the diagonal or on top or below. And in this case, I see we could cancel with the 7 and the 49. That would be a 1, and that would be a 7. And then this will cancel 2, so you get a 1, and then you get a 25 here. And that's a 1 times 7 on top and a 1 times 25 on the bottom. And so you get 7 over 25. So on the next problem, we are multiplying monomials. There's just algebra fractions. What I recommend you do is just go ahead and multiply across the top and then multiply across the bottom and get one fraction. And then we'll reduce that one fraction. You can cancel the 3 and the 6 if you wanted to right now. You can actually cancel the S's on the diagonal. It gets real messy, and so I like just going ahead and multiplying across the top and across the bottom. And so you get 24, r to the third. See, there was an r to the first and r to the second, so it's r to the third. S times s, s squared, and then the t is still t squared. The bottom is 15, and then s cubed and t cubed. And then now you've got one fraction, and you just reduce. So look at 24 and 15. I think you can divide both those by 3. There's not another r, so it's going to stay. The s's will be s to the first on the bottom, and the t's will be t to the first on the bottom. And there's your answer. Here's the next one. So here you could actually reduce the 7 with the 49. You could reduce the 12 and 14 on the diagonal. I'm just going to go ahead and keep multiplying straight across the top, straight across the bottom. You get big numbers. You'll want to use your calculator to find out what number goes into both of these. I went ahead and tried 588 divided by 98, and it did. So luckily that makes that easy to reduce. So you'll definitely want your calculator when comparing that. The x's, you have x squared over x, so that'll leave x on top. The y over y fourth will be y to the third on the bottom. And then z over z cubed is z squared on the bottom. And then you're done. And remember, if, like in this case, 98 over 158, you have a 1 sitting there, but since there's an x there, if you don't want to put the 1 there, you don't have to. Okay, now we're going to get to binomials and later some trinomials. When you are working with binomials and trinomials, you always need to be looking at their factors. Like x plus 6 can't be factored any further, so it's fine. And this is a monomial, this is a monomial, but this is a binomial, and it's the difference of two squares. So that's where you actually want to start this problem, is doing the x plus 6 times x minus 6. So replace x squared minus 36 with that. Now, what you can do is notice that these x plus 6 can cancel on the diagonal, which I really like taking care of the binomials, so it's a lot less work to write down. And now I can just multiply across the top, and I'm going to get 8x to the fourth. And then on the bottom, it's 2x squared, x minus 6. But now I need to reduce the 8 and the 2 and these x's. And so that's the last thing you need to do. The 8 over 2 turns to 4. You have x to the fourth, x squared, and that will be x squared on top. And then, of course, you still got the x minus 6. Anytime you have a binomial or trinomial, you don't want to go in and cancel little parts off. Like this x and this x, you can't do that. This is considered a monomial, and this is considered a binomial. So you can't just go in and do the little parts. The only way to get rid of x minus 6 is if you had another x minus 6 on the top. So you got to be real careful when you do the binomials and trinomials. So let me do another one. This one has binomials, and it also has some trinomials. There's a lot of factoring you need to take care of first. 4b minus 12, you can pull a 4 out. So we need to do that. The b plus 3 is fine. But these two trinomials, you know we got a factor. So we're looking at factors of 3 when added together give me negative 4b. It's going to be negative 3 and a negative 1. And when we factor the negative 30, let's see, that would be negative 10 and a positive 3. And so here's where you want to start when you work with the binomials and trinomials is factor first. So make sure you go in and factor everything out. Then you can see the stuff that we get to get rid of, which is kind of cool. We got a b plus 3 on this diagonal and a b plus 3 on this diagonal. We have a b minus 3 and a b minus 3 on this diagonal. I think that's got it. Let's double check everywhere. Okay, so what's left on top is just b minus 1. And the bottom is 4 times b minus 10. You don't have to distribute that. If you do, it's not wrong. Okay, that's multiplying. We're going to shift gears. I think I split this lesson up into 2 days. So this will be the second day homework. So you're going to notice they're all division. And so the cool thing is when you divide fractions, it's really a multiplication problem, and we're back to doing what we were just doing. So let me run through a division problem. So today, when you work on the second day of this lesson's homework, don't ever write the problem down with the division symbol. Go ahead and do this. What you do is you change the sign to multiplication and you flip the second fraction. And now you can see what's canceling. These a's are canceling and you have just 5 over 3. That's it. So let's do some, you know, start looking a little bit harder like this one. So I'm going to go straight to binomials and trinomials. So I see the division symbol. Not going to copy it down on my paper like that though. You want to go and copy it down as a multiplication problem. Okay, so we're going to multiply and then you have to flip the second one. But these two trinomials need to be factored out. Factors of, let's see, let's do this one. Factors of negative 5 when added together give us negative 4b. Negative 5 and a positive 1. When you factor this one, it's the positive 5 and the negative 1. So you see they're just reverses of each other. But look carefully. See if you can find what we can get rid of. There's a y plus 5, y plus 5, y minus 1, y minus 1. So we're left with these guys. But what is left on top? 1. So that's your final answer for this problem. So guys, when you do these, it gets right back to the multiplication problems. But remember, you always change it to multiplication and you flip the second fraction.